problem, which is that they had these clients for CalFresh, which was growing. First of all, nowhere near as many as there should be. California is one of the lowest in participation rate in CalFresh. But even more than that, they had huge churn in the program. People would sign up, go through this long, involved process, and then they would fail to meet some requirement, fall off the rolls, and reapply. So costly, inefficient, badly designed. And so the first thing the fellows did, because they think very much user-centrically, they said, well, can we sign up for food stamps? We won't use the benefits, but we want to understand how it works. And not far into the process, they got a letter. And again, I'm not going to read it to you. Maybe I should. It says, your food stamps benefits in the quarter did not change as a result of the documents/information we received because it would not have resulted in an increase in benefits. Your food stamp benefits in the quarter do not change as a result of the documents information because the rule says that when you report some changes, the county cannot lower your food stamps until the next quarter. The county has refigured your food stamps using the information you report. Anyway, it goes on like that. And what it actually means is that the next time you're at the checkout counter or at some point, some magical point in the future, you're going to be at the checkout counter planning to use your food stamp card. And guess what? It won't work. Because what it really meant was there's a problem with your benefits. You better call the office. And in fact, that's the Code for America Fellows experimented with a whole bunch of different approaches. The problem, what they came up with as the most effective in the pilot was basically a message that said, in essence, there's a problem with your benefits. Call the office. Which is what people had to do. But it was completely unintelligible from that letter that was written by some lawyer and was sent out in paper, maybe never even received. And so the way that you actually discovered that your food stamp benefits didn't work was because, guess what, they stopped working. That, by the way, was also how healthcare.gov, when the rescue team first went in there, the way that they figured out whether it was working or not was they either went to CNN, because it was national news, or you just tried it, and it was either down or up. And so this guy, Mikey Dickerson, who came in from Google to help with the rescue, became famous because there was a lot of resistance to installing monitoring for various reasons. And he said, if one more person tells me that I can't install New Relic, I'm going to punch you in the face. And so he got his way. They installed the monitoring, and they were able to, sort of patch things together. But this really back to Snap. This was really just the beginning of the process that we've gone through in debugging the system, because it turned out the application process online was also incredibly painful. I'm going to show you a rapid-fire illustration of that. 50 screens long, right? So you go, why is it 50 screens long? Because they kind of threw in all kinds of questions. Turns out actually different counties have different questions, and the vendor just sort of shoveled them all into one app. So very, very painful. And it turns out actually that all this is a screener for you to come in and have an appointment anyway. And it turns out it's legal to get in with a much smaller number of questions. So Code for America built a, wait a minute, let's see what's happening here. I should be on to the next one. Lets you apply for Medi-Cal at the same time, and you're done. That's on a mobile phone. You could probably fit all that on one screen if you were doing it on a big screen. So again, this is kind of going back to these government digital service design principles. Start with the user. Start with the user. Start with the person who's actually, you're actually trying to help. So again, coming back to Digital Front Door, that's what this is all about. If you're interested, talk to these guys. You can also go to that short link, C4A, which is codeforamerica.me/DFD. And we've also incorporated a bunch of super cool tools. One of the things that's super important as you start thinking about your website for users, you have to realize that not everybody, can speak good English. The education level differs, and so, for example, there's a great tool called Hemingway that we're helping cities to use, which actually evaluates the writing level of the copy on your website. You know, it shows how long things are, how long it will take to read, how many people are reading it. So the real point here is that often in, you know, when you're designing these things, again, you have that, you know, group of shareholders. And, you know, it's no one's job to speak for the user, you know, except yours. And so you're in some ways in this unique role where you have an amazing ability to say, we have to do this differently. I have data to show why we should do it differently, and to rethink your job in such a way that you become an advocate for your users. And you know, you have a lot of support there. I mean, first of all, there are increasing numbers of senior policymakers in government who understand this. But you also have the support of applications that have hundreds of millions of users, billions of users. So you can say, this is how, you know, this is the best practice. And, you know, you can actually learn how to do it, and you can teach, you know, the people that you work with how to do it, and we'd love to be able to help you do that. And you know, my ultimate message is kind of the message of Code for America, which is that government can work for the people, by the people, in the 21st century. Let's just make it work. Thank you. So we have some time left for Q&A, right?
Thanks, Tim. We've got about 10 minutes, so we can take maybe 2 or 3 questions.
Yeah.
If you have time for it.
Yeah.
Just raise your hand.
Thank you. I was wondering if you had worked with any branches of the government other than I guess the executive branch, like the judicial branch, or courts involved in terms of the judicial branch's web presence?
You know, there's been a little bit of work. I know that in, Jen might want to come up and talk more specifically to some of this. But I know we worked in Louisville with the court system. You know, actually built a jail population dashboard for judges when they're making sentencing decisions to be able to, you know, understand what was actually happening, you know, because they were basically sending people into overcrowded jails, and they actually were making different decisions once they could see the conditions of the jail. You go, actually, you know, I'm going to let this guy out, you know, because we don't really have room for him, and it's not that, you know, again, there's a lot of reasons where people will think differently. Yep. No, Jen got it wrong.
Did not let people out.
Yeah.
It was a way to know who was coming in and who was scheduled to leave, so you knew actually what your population was, and what they would do is be able to redirect to a different jail or take in other people from the state or other county jails in order to keep the jail from being overpopulated.
Sorry, I got that.
It's okay.
But I do, sorry, I'm a bit on a hobby horse there, because I do think that we're sending way too many people to jail when they should be let out on their own recognizance. But that's a separate issue.
We also work on that, but not in that case.
Yeah. All right, so other questions?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
We've also, much like the text messaging to remind people that their benefits might end, we've used text messaging to help people deal with things like traffic tickets that they might otherwise have to spend a whole day, this was in Atlanta, you know, online trying to get cleared, because we find that in fact many people end up with a bench warrant for their arrest because they weren't able to take the time off of work to go stand online. And when we do that, that's why you have a lot of people in jail for very minor misdemeanors. So text messaging can be really, really helpful.
Okay.
Tim, Tom Fuller from the Oregon Department of Transportation. You mentioned the Connected Citizens Program, and we at ODOT signed an agreement with Google where we're exposing our real-time traffic information to Waze, and they're exposing their information back to us. It's sort of a two-way thing. because they weren't able to see what roads were closed, which we already knew. So that's very helpful. But the users put in information in Waze, which helps us update our trip check application. So there's a dual benefit. The one thing that we're not taking from Waze are the police reported sightings. So we don't want to tell people, oh, there are cops. We don't want the, ODOT saying, here, the cops are going to get you, so.
Yeah. So what city is that again?
Pardon me?
No, what city are you in?
It's the Oregon Department of Transportation.
Oh, Oregon Department of Transportation, yeah. That's fantastic. That's great. And I think your point about it being two-way is super important. And it's also super important, your point that, it's not, you got to take everything. You can actually build an app that meets your needs. Yeah. Okay. Others? Sorry, I can't really see here.
So when you were talking about the general transit feed specification, we're involved in something called Open Trails, which I'm sure you're aware of as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that is really lined up on the same path as a GTFS.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. What was the?
Can you talk a little bit about Open Trails?
Open Trails, yes.
Specification in relation to the general transit feed specification.
Yeah, I think Open Trails is super interesting. We worked on that at Code for America as well, although we're no longer actively involved in the core of the organization because we've had the focus. But it's a fabulous initiative. There's a lot of data about park trails and how do you connect up park trails to to these transit systems. For example, if you're trying to get somewhere, you need to know that the trailhead is here, and then once you get onto the trail, it's super great if your mapping software actually knows about the trails as well. So I think it's a really great example of what I've been talking about getting together on a standard for a class of data that government has that a lot of people. Other people don't have. I know Google's been having a lot of people go, walk trails, with those Google Earth cams and so on. But cities already have a lot of data. Park services have a lot of data, and again, fabulous example of how government can effectively connect into an ecosystem of apps that already have hundreds of millions of users.
And at 2:15, the Open Trails guys are here in Enchantment C and D.
Awesome. Yeah, you should go learn more about that. That's super important and interesting.
Got time for one more. One more question? Anybody? All right, that's it. I think that'll do it, Tim.
All right.
Thank you, sir. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.